Oregonians for Science and Reason is a Northwestern United States resource for scientific skeptical news, events, and philosophy that promotes advocacy of public understanding of the scientific method, rational thinking, and the positive effects that such understanding and knowledge can have on people's lives. Please visit us at www.o4sr.org.
To Portland State University Physics for co-sponsoring, and for CFI Portland. I don't see Sylvia. I don't know if anyone here from CFI wants to give a little plug to their group. I'm not seeing a hand. Okay. I'm the program director for Oregonians for Science and Reason, the other co-sponsor for the talk tonight. We are a statewide skeptics organization, and I'm venturing to guess that most people, but not everyone, knows about skeptics. We focus, Oregonians for Science and Reason focuses specifically on science, pseudoscientific claims. If you're interested in knowing more about what's pseudoscience, our speaker tonight's earlier book, Quantum Leaps in the Wrong Direction, is specifically about pseudoscience and topics on pseudoscience. So many of the things that show up in the popular media without a scientific basis, but that likes to use scientific terms or claims, everything from psychics, flying saucers, astrology is not astronomy, homeopathy is not a science-based medicine, those kinds of topics, and those are the kinds of things that we often address, including creationism, which is, to me, ultimate pseudoscience. It has all the props of science. It has its own pseudoscientific journals and pseudoscientific societies, but it is outside the scientific community. So those are the kinds of things that we focus on. There's a flagship magazine, The Skeptical Inquirer, that talks about many of these topics, and this particular issue is the one that has our speaker's article about the book that he's going to be talking about tonight. And if you are interested in joining Oregonians for Science and Reason, we're a 501c3 educational nonprofit. There's some membership or interest cards sitting over there by the door, and we put on many events like this, as well as various activities, creative, critical thinking type things. Next week we will have activity booths at the Central Western Oregon Science Expo, which is a science fair. So we do a variety of activities besides bringing in speakers. We're an all-volunteer organization. And let me make a plug to any of our members. We are still looking for one more board member. And Steve Bauer has joined the board, and so there's the opportunity to carpool from Portland. So if you're interested, if you're a member and interested in joining the board, come talk to me. So our speaker tonight, Dr. Charles Wynn, is a professor of chemistry from Eastern Connecticut State University. He is a world educator. He's spoken and talked around the world. He was educated at the Bronx High School of Science, the City College of New York, and his doctorate at the University of Michigan. He was in the Peace Corps at the Malayan Teachers College in Malaysia, and has lectured around the world at, on science and math. He's also written he's written 4 now popular science books, including the one that he'll be speaking about tonight. And I have just a few remaining copies for sale. I have 4 remaining copies that we're selling at the best price you can get of his book, $10. So if you're interested, I can take a check or cash for that. So let me give you Dr. Wynn, and you go ahead.
Glad to be here back in Oregon. I've been in Oregon for the last 12 years. Glad to be back. I go to Eugene every summer. Many of you know the Skeptic's Toolbox. And I have to say, much of what I know, I learned at the Skeptic's Toolbox. So I'm grateful for Ray Hyman and his crew for doing what they do every summer. We recommend it to everybody. The only Oregon I know is Eugene in the middle of the summer. So now I know more about Oregon and how to pronounce it. And not only that, I got some insight into what Oregon's like when it's not Eugene in the summer, because there's a traditional gift that Eugene gave me that was started, I think, when Eugenie Scott was the guest speaker, and it rained like hell. And so ever since then, the guest speaker, it's one of these. I will treasure this for a long time, and I certainly appreciate it. I was thinking about coming out here, so Oregon was on my mind. And as I was teaching my class, I teach a chemistry class. I wasn't teaching it yet, it was before class, so I was walking around. This was Wednesday, true story, not looking up. This was Wednesday, and I was walking around the class, and before the class began, and you try to bond with your students appropriately. So, and this one kid in the class was looking at some girl that he was talking to, and he was wearing a baseball hat, as students do these days, and so all I could see was this side of his baseball hat. And I looked at it with Oregon on my mind, and it said C-K-S. So, of course, the first thing that popped into my mind. And I said to him, I can't believe it. You got a Ducks hat on, And he turns his head toward me, and the girls start giggling. And what do you think it said? No, that's where your mind is. Slap them down. What do you think it said? Come on, New York.
Knicks.
Knicks.
I would think it's about New York.
It said the Knicks. So when I go to the airport, I'm going to have to get. And then they started laughing. I said, well, Ducks, they call their team the Ducks. They thought that was the funniest thing. They just laughed. The girls were making fun of this guy because I thought this guy was wearing a Ducks hat. So I have to, when I get to the airport, I have to bring something that it wasn't just a joke. It was dead serious. So anyway, we're here to do other things tonight and to talk about, what you already said, to talk about this book. And I just want to give you a sense of where it all came from and why I wrote it and why I think it's of any significance and what it might lead to. And so that's where we'll go tonight. And then if you have any questions, certainly hang around for questions. But let me just say that in the history of the United States, there have been many defining moments. And there were some of these defining moments in the history of the United States of America that are cause for celebration among Americans. We all know that on July 4th, 1776, we declared our independence from Britain, and democracy was born in this country, and so every July 4th we say, Happy Birthday, America. And it's a cause for celebration. Another day is May 8th. I'm talking about birthday, May 8th, 1945. That's not my birthday. And what was that? VE Day. VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. The day of victory for the Allies in World War II. And that was cause for celebration. And on that day, men and women took to the streets to express their joy that the war in Europe was finally over. On the other hand, there are defining moments in the history that we commemorate because they are tragic, because there's death and calamity and suffering associated with them. But what defines us as a nation is how we respond to these events. And so on the morning of December 7th, 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy conducted a surprise military attack on the naval base in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor. The attack was a profound shock to the people of America. In response to that, we were led directly into entry in World War II. This horrific act, the horrific nature of this devastating attack, led our President Franklin Roosevelt to proclaim December 7th, 1941, a day which will live in infamy. And then, of course, there was September 11th, 2001. Now, do you remember where you were? Most people do. On September 11th, 2001, when you first became aware that the World Trade Center had been attacked. Most people do, and so do I. And here's where I was. It was about 8:45 in the morning. I was home. I was watching a videotape, a DVD videotape, of an episode from a television series called The Ascent of Man. Jacob Bernowski. In 1973, I believe that's when that program was created. And it had about, I think, 13 episodes. This particular episode, my favorite, was called Knowledge or Certainty. And Dr. Bernowski was discussing the rise of Hitler in Germany and other tyrants elsewhere. And he was discussing the confrontation between the ascent of man and these despots, Hitler and others, belief in the absolute certainty of their ideologies. And in the final scene of this episode, Dr. Bernowski stands at the edge of a pond in Auschwitz, a pond that contains the ashes of his family and of his friend and fellow scientist, Leo Szilard. And he says, there are two parts to the human dilemma. One is the belief that the end justifies the means. That push-button philosophy that delivers deafness to suffering has become the monster in the war machine.
Thanks for watching this video presentation from Oregonians for Science and Reason. For more information on previous and upcoming events, please visit us at www.o4sr.org.